to you in studio live. For those of you driving about town, listening on 93.3 FM, Real Talk Radio, and watching on Warchant TV, we appreciate you. Thanks for supporting local, as always. Hello, kiddos. How you doing? How was that first hour? Good. It was meaty. It was good. Good to see everybody in the chat. Hello. Tommy, how are you?
I'm living. And I just I got the crash course of all of the interviews because the channel on the back end of the channel was posting a lot of those things. So I listened to probably in the last 40 minutes, like at 2 times speed, 60 minutes of coaching thoughts on each of the position groups. So the brain is assimilating all the knowledge, but it's nice to hear these specific position coaches start talking about the players that they're going to be, coaching on the field on Monday. It's nice to get those juices flowing again. It's funny, once you get all this waiting for it, and you're like, well, how's it going to feel? Once you hear the names back and the progress reports and all that stuff, you start to get those neurons to fire again. It's nice to be back.
So very quickly, since we were just talking about, if I recall from just before I went over to the press conference today, that last segment may have been the segment in which I was discussing the shady nature of that bird place. I got a text as we were starting just now. My mother-in-law works at the bird place you're speaking of.
No,
I should have just texted back, is she a drug dealer? But anyhow, yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, so it was laid back, man. If I were them, and, I am always interested by the decisions Florida State makes, but you have this shining new, unbelievable to look at. It is a spectacle. If you guys haven't been over there to see the completion of the football-only facility, it is something to behold. I mean, aesthetically, it's as nice as it can get. It's the Taj Mahal of football-only facilities. It's absolutely beautiful. And so, you pull up and you're like, look at that thing. Look at that behemoth. And it's spacious beyond reason. Quite literally don't know that it ever needed to be that big, but it is. And they went all in. They pushed the chips in. Why are you having this thing on the bottom floor of the moor with that little side area where we sometimes have to go when it's lightning after a practice? Like, why not have the press conference, at this palatial, state-of-the-art football-only facility and showcase it for all the cameras that are going to be there, including, for news stations throughout the state? You have a lot of people that come to the press conference. I know it's spring, but I just don't understand why you wouldn't do it. That's my first thing. I'm not upset by it. It doesn't mean that much to me. It's just an observation. Like, why would you do it? Why wouldn't you have as much, almost braggadocio as possible? Like, look at this place. Look at FSU's place. If I'm like a high school football player, big-time recruit, and I'm looking at, I would love to look at something and go, oh, it may not make any difference. But I'd love to look at something like, good God, look at the facilities over there. Not, my God, are they destitute? Like, that's the thing about where we were this morning.
There's a lot of why questions. There's a lot of why questions in general. I suppose that one would fit in the queue. I don't know it would be near the top, but a lot of things with the football program over the last couple of years saying, well, why? Why not? Why would you do this? I would imagine, here's what I'm gonna say. By the time we get to fall camp, you're going to have your state of the program over there in the football.
Yeah, I would like to think.
Yeah, you want to show it off is right. But I noticed in all those breakout interviews, I'm like, well, that is those cement, like cinder blocks that are painted over with 6-coat of gold paint coaches' rooms. And the old, where they had the old was the Hall of Fame, like the State Hall of Fame room that was there 15 odd years ago when Jimbo and Brent Callistad used to go to war. I was like, oh, yeah. They're down on the first floor. You guys weren't even in the varsity club. What the hell was up with that?
Yeah, we were down on the first floor this time around. As far as the presentation, I'll give Mike marks for a more relaxed, talkative approach to assessing the winter program and what they've achieved and what he's looking forward to. And I'll give him credit for the, he was a little bit more relaxed and less uptight. We talked some about that. there wasn't a lot of substance there. That's not a knock. There just wasn't a lot of information that you'd go, oh, eureka, that's interesting. There wasn't a lot of that. I thought, so for example, I think it was Chris Nee asked the question about the running back room. And the running back room frustrated all of us last year because a guy would come in, get a carry, go 16 yards. He'd get another carry, go another 16 yards, 2 carries, 32 yards, just like that, come out of the game, maybe never see him again. Quite literally, maybe never see him again. Maybe 2 games later, he makes a guest appearance in the third quarter. It's like, what was the rhyme to, or reason for the way that they did it? Mike didn't give a great answer for that. He talked about, that's a very competitive room and all these things. And I don't know if he just didn't want to roll anybody, but he didn't give a great answer for it. I will say that I did notice a little bit of an uptick in his demeanor the second time he was asked. He was asked 2 questions. Corey Clark asked him the first one. I think the second question was the Gus Malzahn question. Sonone asked that. And then he answered it. But then the next time he got another question about play calling, he did say, and I wrote it down in my notes, Gus and I are different. The foundation is the same, but I'm looking forward to adding onto what we did. Well, and I paraphrased that a little bit there because I was jotting quick as I was trying to keep up with what he was saying. In essence, he's saying, look, the base of what I like to do can be seen as similar to what Gus likes to do, but I have more within my offensive repertoire than Gus has in his, and I'm looking forward to getting back to that and adding to the offense. It's the way I read that. Now, he may not have meant it that way, but that is the way that I translate what he said. And it was interesting that he led with Gus and I are different.
Yeah, I heard as he was talking about, he said there's some things that we needed. Frankly, I think we needed that year. We needed that Gus to come in and change some things. And for whatever reason, he was trying to justify, obviously, that Gus was here and that, it really didn't work all that well. So I think he was trying to spin that as best he could. And he was saying positive things about what Gus added to the organization.
Well, I told you beforehand last hour, there was no way he was going to roll him.
But then there was the opposite part. It was like, but there are also things, this is translated, but there are some things that, I couldn't, no, we needed to change and that we're going to change this year. So he found a way to say the notable thing, which is, there was some good things about Gus, but there's some, I can't wait to get my hands on the fixes that I thought in real time we needed to get in tow. And if you listen to Tim Harris speak today, and all those interviews are available on the channel, Tim Harris spoke to that as well about how, like, Norvell is different. This is a different offense. He was asked point blank that question. He said, yeah, man, this offense is different enough. And there's a lot of research that goes into it when you get into delegation, game planning, running the meeting rooms. These are all the things that Tim Harris is going to be in charge of. He is in charge of day to day, and the operation is different. Yes.
Mike had a high praise for Tim Harris, and he seemed excited about what he brings to the table. I wouldn't expect anything different there either. A lot of what we got today was what you normally get. I will say, I'll take away from this that I think it's abundantly clear that they want Ashton Daniels to start. I laughed because his answer to Corey's question about the quarterback room and whether or not it was going to be a competition. Well, there's no coach on earth that's ever going to concede that there is no competition within a segment group. That's just not how you ever go about operating practice, because every player on the roster, no matter the position, has to feel like they have a chance that if they play well, they'll start. Otherwise, you get guys who check out. And there's a danger in that when you bring people in from the outside. This is the transfer portal era, it is tough to create camaraderie, and it's tough to create some sort of symmetry. I think it's very difficult to have guys remain bought in at all times when increasingly year to year, 2 and 3 players are brought in at your position. These kids aren't dumb. They talk, they find out who's getting paid what. And the money tells you who's higher up in the pecking order by definition. And that's the way it is in the real working world, right? I mean, somebody that's making 2x what somebody else is making in that office, one would presume they hold a more valuable role within the company. And you would like to believe, I know it's not always this way because office politics are similar to national politics. They can be absurd. But you'd like to think that person who's making 2 or 3x what that other person's making is also much more proficient at what they do, more experience, whatever it might be. So they talk, and guys can check out. They can feel like they've been usurped. And but a coach is not going to tell you that he doesn't want daily competition and that it won't be rewarded. But the way he answered the question was to suggest that Sperry's not ready yet. They look forward to a time when he is. He's going to get opportunities to continue to prove his worth, but they're really excited about what Ashton Daniels brings to the table. That's a paraphrased answer to what he said. You guys can go watch what he said. We posted it. But it's pretty obvious 2 different times he's talked about the quarterback that he's talking about this kind of being Ashton's job.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm curious, in watching the presser, I will tell you this is because it's from afar. Actually, there was a bit of a traffic issue in Orlando. Breaking news. That's the first time I'm sure it's ever happened in the history of this town. So I went to a local restaurant to handle the mic. I went to a Miller's to handle the mic presser, and I was listening. I was listening to it. They had a great special that I'm sure they haven't tallied to, and I wasn't impressed with the energy. I was hoping to get some resolve. I was hoping to get some life in the eyes. I thought it was kind of a go through the motions presser, except for when he talked about Deuce at length. And I think he also offered up a little bit when he was talking about acquisitions off season, saying no to certain things, resources that we have. I think there was some truthfulness there, but I was hoping to get a little bit more gusto. I think this was we're going to go through this next half an hour together, everybody, kind of energy. I just wonder if it felt that way in the building or if that's the way it came through just in the live stream.
See, I'm torn on this, Tom, because I didn't want the fake bravado. I didn't want an over-the-top preacher approach, which he sometimes gets into. I wanted a more conversational style, and we got that. At the same time, no, nobody walked out of there feeling like they could run through a wall or that he was really emboldened. But I think there is a wrestling match in his head, because I understand when I think about what I want to hear and the way that I view him and where this program's at and the realities that they're facing, I think it's got to be tough because he knows after back-to-back years, back-to-back losing seasons, back-to-back years in which you had not just some losses, but you had losses that defy logic, that are impossible to explain away, that are fireable offenses. You have losses that profoundly upset the fan base. Again, the overall record profoundly upsets the fan base. But I think the Stanford game is the greatest example. I mean, you'd have to go all the way back to Jacksonville State to be as pissed off as this fan base was after a loss. And he knows that I don't think he can take to any dais before the start of a football-related activity and try to engender this, we're going to be really good. You wait till you see just how good this guy is or this guy is. And he knows. I think he's aware that the fan base would be like, man, get the hell out of here with that. You've said this each of the last 2 years. Both of those years led to losing seasons. I don't need to hear the bravado from Mike Norvell of a coach who believes they're going to be good, because I won't believe it and it'll seem false. So it's just tough, because I think he would have had to, in some way, he would have had to have been dishonest to take on that posture.
Yeah, that's fair. And I know it's an impossible standard, because what you're talking about, you're not going to believe it. It just, perhaps I could rephrase it and say kind of the life in the eyes. I was looking to see just a little bit more alertness. And again, TV is very different than sitting in the room. I've been to press conferences for a long time. You have gone longer than I. You were in the room. I wasn't. So I just, also your skills that you were referring to last hour in the taped hour. which is to read the body language, to tell the story behind the words that are being spoken. I just wonder how that story might have resonated.
Yeah. I think there was two things, Tom. I will tell you, that's a good question, because I think there were pockets where I went, oh, that's interesting. And then others where I'm like, oh, here we go, blah, 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 blah. But the ones where, he really was trying to sell the organizational improvements that they've made, quote unquote, and the way that they're going to go about acquiring talent acquisition, talent retention. Now, I have a personal opinion about that, and for the purposes of the Jeff Cameron show, I have to give that opinion because that's what I'm paid to do. It may not align with what he believes and what he thinks is to be true, and I could, if I were an audience member, I could listen to this take and say, well, you're jaded and angry and you don't believe in the guy. You've made it abundantly clear, so of course you're not going to believe him when he says that it frees him up and allows him to attack the task at hand a little bit more. I don't know. He seemed to maybe believe that. I don't know if they wanted him to sell it. I don't know if he believes it or he's convinced himself of it. The difference between what I think to be true and what he was stating, it doesn't really matter. I think it's gibberish. I don't think it makes any difference at all. I don't think that the way they've restructured is going to make an impact on whether or not he keeps his job. I don't think they're acquiring elite talent anytime soon. I don't think they're going to have a good season. But I don't know. He seems to have been invigorated a little bit by it. It doesn't jive with what we've been told about that relationship and the way this is going early on. It doesn't jive with what I would figure to be true if I were a coach who had more responsibility stripped from the ledger of things that I do. I wouldn't like what it says about me as a recruiter, as a talent evaluator, as a developer. But to get by, he might have to convince himself that it's freeing and invigorating, and it might help him be a better coach. Perhaps. I don't know. I do think he was trying to convey that, Tom. I don't buy it. I don't think it's going to be all that effective. I think Florida State is still well behind other programs around the country with the way that they acquire, negotiate, and evaluate players. I think they're still well behind. But it's almost irrelevant to today's press conference. That's just an opinion I have. So when he said it, I was just trying to gauge the truthiness of what he was saying. And, he might believe it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the resources they had for this offseason is a point of contention that he also communicated, I think, indirectly. He was asked the question about negotiations and how they were difficult. And he initially started with, well, what happens behind the scenes is not what happens, what's being reported. I don't know, man. A lot of those things that happened specifically with the Desirs were pretty close to the situation context about how that was up and down.
Tom, I'm sorry. I know in this format I shouldn't interrupt. But you asked something specific to this, and I'm going to tell you that's the moment that he knew that he had to say what he said, but the look on his face betrayed him because he also kind of smiled. There was like a sheepish grin as if to say, yeah, that sucked. The way that we went about that sucked, and the way that that process played out sucked. And, what you guys heard, you didn't say this, but it was all over his face. What you guys heard is true. This was nonsense. And I'm happy to be freed up by this addition to the program and to the front office from having to deal with that, almost as if he was saying we've learned a lot about what just happened. We were it's akin to saying we were kind of clueless as this all happened, but we've learned a lot because it did.
Yeah, I think also he's trying to communicate that they're balling on a budget a little bit too. There was.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all, buddy.
Yeah, he was speaking about the resources, and I'm happy with the resources we have. I'm like, man, okay. Here's the problem. You've had more resources than anybody who's ever walked that sideline and held that headset and put it on over their ears ever. And you haven't returned on that investment. That's why the resources are the way they are. But I just found it interesting. It was indirect. I think it was subtle. It was quick. I actually made a short out of it. We'll have it on our social medias and so forth. But it was related to that question about negotiations and having to tell people no. And sometimes you have to prioritize. Sometimes you have to prioritize means I don't have the money to spend it everywhere I want to spend it. I got to spend it in certain places that I have to spend it. And so we had to tell some people no, is what he said.
Well, and that's going to be true no matter what, even if you had unlimited funds.
Yes, you will have to tell some people no because the asks are insane. There is a certain tax that also increases those asks as well at Florida State.
I believe it is called the suck tax. That is correct. Yeah, that is our reality. So we've bathed ourselves in the suck tax for some time now. There's no getting around it. Chef Cameron Show on Libations Friday, responding to today's luncheon. Players not there, coaches were. Norvell, the leader, obviously, as he started the day, and I was there for that, and Tom and I reacted to that. We'll continue to do so, jump around a little bit from there and touch on some other subjects that kind of came to light today as well. Yes, for those of you asking, 2 to 4 is live. Only the first hour today was recorded because of said luncheon. So that's how that works. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment. Hey, let me tell you about my friends at Tried and True .653. When you do business with Tried and True, they contribute 10% of the net revenue to the battle's end. So go Tried and True today. Call 844-464-6653.
Tired of calling 1-800 numbers just to get put on hold? Flush those numbers down the drain and call Terry West Plumbing and Septic Services, now offering Terry's Toilets, providing clean, reliable porta potties for any job site, special event, or backyard party. Real local people doing real work. No robots, no AI, no call centers. For all your septic services and portable restroom needs, one local call wipes away the competition. Call 850-510-8558. That's 510-8558. Or visit terrywestplumbing.com. When you call, we answer.
Hey, it's Shannon Young with Cross Country Mortgage. If you work hard to serve our community, whether you're a teacher, a nurse, firefighter, police officer, or first responder, or even a city or county employee, I've got some great news for you. Florida's Hometown Heroes program can help you buy a home with down payment and closing cost assistance up to $35,000, depending on where you live and work. It's a way to say thank you to the people that keep Florida running. And I'm proud to help local heroes take advantage of it every day. Don't assume you don't qualify. Let's find out together. I'll walk you through the process, show you how to combine these benefits with the right mortgage plan, and help you make that dream of homeownership a reality. Let's get started. You can reach me at 954-369-6171. That's 954-369-6171. I'm Shannon Young with Cross Country Mortgage, helping our hometown heroes find their way home.
And here come the leaves, thousands of them, falling fast, covering every inch of the yard. But wait, who's this rushing in? It's the Lawn Johns with the ultimate fall cleanup blitz. From clearing leaves to fresh pine straw and mulch, the Lawn Johns dominate the field, your yard, so you can focus on what matters. Grilling, chilling, and cheering on your team. Don't let leaves sack your game day fun. Call the Lawn Johns today and win the battle of the backyard. The Lawn Johns, your lawn, our game.
Searching for the best place to host an event for your friends and family? The Golf Club at Summerbrook is more than just a place for a round of golf. It's also one of the best choices for hosting and celebrating the most special days in your life. From rehearsal dinners and baby showers to corporate banquets and kids' birthday parties, you'll receive amazing personal service and attention to every detail when you choose the Golf Club at Summerbrook. Find out how affordable it can be and call us today at 850-894-GOLF. That's 850-894-GOLF.
From the championship stage to coaching change and everything in between, Warchant.com remains your home for the best FSU football coverage in the business. Brutally honest columns and features, market-leading multimedia presence across video and podcast, the largest FSU fan community with a staff that combines for over 100 years of experience covering the Noles. When change comes, Warchant.com is your home for analysis from every angle. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Sign up today.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Yeah, buddy, guess what? I've learned your frustration. That little slight delay. Oh, why aren't you on? Tom, is your mic on?
For whatever reason, that little thing, it is. That little thing has a 4 or 5 second, like Mississippi delay when you hit it. Sometimes, other times it automatically goes. So,
the age-old 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
You see now why I sit on that side of the glass and I'll do like this number. I'm like, well, it's going to play. It's just deciding.
At some point, it'll play.
It's deciding when it wants to. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's a couple starred here. I'll get to them. Loosey-goosey, ask away, gang. We're in a talkative mood. We're feeling good. It was about this time 2 years ago when Jeff was saying, get big and meet me at the hole. Oh, my. In regards to linebacker play, of course, classic JCS, Loosey-goosey Friday. Did I say that?
Yeah, you sure did.
Yeah. Well, I would like linebacker play to improve. That's all that means. I would like for us to trigger and meet running backs in the hole, the correct hole, repeatedly, I might add. That would be a good thing.
Diagnose, trigger, get downhill? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to see that. Optimus Climb, how likely is it that FSU kept Mike because they expect to reach P2 status sooner than expected, perhaps within a year or two, and want to hire as a P2 to attract a more accomplished coach? I think they kept Mike because they're broke. That's what I think. I think they kept Mike because they're broke. And when I say broke, they just didn't want to part with all of that money. And if they really had to, I think they would have. Like, if there was some sort of gun to the head emergency, could they do it? Yes, but they preferred not to. And I think they calibrated a little off, because I think that what they thought was true was that Gus would have created a floor that guaranteed they'd go 6-6, 7-5 at worst. I don't think they thought they were going to lose those last games to NC State and Florida, and they got stuck. They should have fired him after Stanford. They should have fired him after 2-10, but they didn't. And so they thought, all right, we got to get this thing paid down some, and let's wear this for another year. It's a stark reality. It's not one that anybody likes to accept. It's not a good way to go about running a football program. It's not ideal. It sends the wrong message to the fans. I think they were way behind on some things, too, in terms of the landscape of college football. I think they were holding out hope for a lot of things to happen, and none of those things went their way. That's a better way of describing it. I think that they really thought, A, they couldn't have a losing season with the, quote, improvements that they made with the roster and with bringing Gus in, and B, especially that thought was emboldened when they beat Alabama. And how could it not be? When you beat Alabama, you don't presume that from that point forward you're going to go on to have a losing season. So at that point, they probably put down their arms and went, all right, okay, we've righted the ship. It's a big year. We've got major expenditures that we've been a part of with our fight against the ACC, the building of the football-only facility, the improvements to Doak that were absolutely necessary. Perhaps they went above and beyond what was necessary, but they were all in on that. I can live with those changes. So they had done all of those things, and they just thought, you just can't go 2-10. You just got to have a winning year. You beat Alabama, and you're immediately probably disarmed. You're probably immediately of the mindset, we're going to be all right. And then, you have 2 layups that really don't count, but those are wins, and they're lopsided wins. And you got a boosted attendance to those games because of the win over Alabama. People came out to those games. So your attendance and all of the extra monies that you could make on the ancillary because you won the Alabama game, well, your coffers were full. You were feeling good. People came in droves to those nothing games against thoroughly outmatched opponents because, A, they were already invested in the new stadium, or the stadium upgrades, excuse me. They were already ponied up for that. You beat Alabama. They were emboldened to make the trip again because they thought, all right, we got a squad. 2-10 was a blip on the radar. We're going to be fine. And it's gone. And in the midst of, oh, my God, my pants are falling down, they're running around trying to figure out where the belt is and not the, hey, we're going to have to scrap this all together. This ain't gonna get it done. We need to, flee for the exits. There's no belt, and I think by the time they recognized, oh, he's doing it again, we're crashing into the mountain again. What are we gonna do? They were stuck. Now, I'm not saying that to excuse it away, and I'm not saying that I like it. I'm not saying that I think they've done a good job. Pretty clearly, they haven't. But I do think they got stuck, and, now you're just going to have to kind of wear whatever this is. They have to hope like hell that this is a much better season. I don't know that there's a belief that it's going to be. The response to the picture I posted of Mike Norvell today at the press conference before it started, which I just tweeted out, spring football begins, and a picture of Mike at the dais. I kind of always do that whenever it's the fall or spring. It's the first time that he takes to the, podium. And those responses weren't good, Tom. Those responses were a whole lot of funny GIFs and people burying their head in a pillow and do we have to? Or I forgot, that's right, we have a football program. And, I don't think there is a through line of belief in this fan base that anything good is going to come out of this year. Let's just put it that way. Attendance looks like this year.
Yeah, it'll be, you got the week 0 game, which it's going to be hot as Hades. I wonder how many people are going to make that trip up there because the next week you got SMU for a Monday night. That's going to sell out. There's no doubt in the world that the SMU game is going to be packed to the gills because if it's not Florida State fans, it'll be SMU fans who want to make a pilgrimage out to come see Doe Campbell Stadium and come to Tallahassee. It's not that hard of a flight. In fact, it's one of the few direct flights you can get is from Dallas to Tallahassee. So I think that building is going to be incredibly crowded. If you start 2-1, you're probably okay-ish for Central Arkansas. But if you start 1-2, that could be extremely problematic for both Central Arkansas and Virginia. It'll be fascinating to see. I think the SMU game is going to have a fantastic atmosphere. But the problem is, and the problem they have now, is let's say that you beat SMU and you do so convincingly. Everybody's still going to be skeptical. Everybody is still going to be skeptical. Now, if you beat SMU, you go on the road and mess around and you're in the game with Alabama, maybe you restore trust, but I wonder what the threshold of success has to be before fans say to themselves, okay, I'm going to let my guard down. I believe this time. But I think it has to be pretty exceptional, at least a 4-1 start before people start to release the pressure a little bit.
Sharon in the chat said that the tickets are already sold. And while that's true, all of the financial benefits you get from people bothering to get in the car and coming into the city and spending their money on the hotels and spending their money, obviously, at the fan shops and the concessions and parking and all of the activities that are centered around the games themselves, like the Friday night stuff that they do, the Saturday game day, pre and post. There's a lot of ancillary things in which a lot of money is spent. Obviously, this town counts on it. I know a lot of restaurateurs, obviously, and they are all pissed at Mike Norvell right about now in this administration because it kills their business if it continues. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think the average Joe, if they suspect even for a second that they're getting more of what they've seen the last 2 years, sold or not, they ain't coming. They're not rolling up here and spending all that money and enduring, especially those early season games, enduring the heat and the humiliation. They won't show. You'll see a different side of it.
Well, I think what they would do would be to pick one or the other. For example, you're not going to week 0, but I'll go to SMU. You might get the ramp up to start the season where people come back for consecutive weeks. But Central Arkansas, Virginia, yeah, you got to prove something for somebody who lives in Orlando or Miami or Jacksonville or somewhere in South Georgia to hop on the road, come back-to-back weeks for those games. I mean, that's the whole thing. You might get the gate for Saturday, October 3rd against Virginia if you're middling to start, but Central Arkansas is not going to do anything. And then down the stretch, too, because of the holidays, NC State and Florida are good opponents, relatively speaking. If you're just talking about draw, not bad opponents back-to-back. But if you've got holiday plans, maybe you take a break on the 21st and you come in just for Thanksgiving or vice versa, even though you have season tickets. That's where you get hurt, is when you stack those weekends back-to-back. People have to be truly motivated to upend themselves by Friday. They're taking a half a day. And then Sunday they go home beleaguered. But they're going to have to be back here in Tallahassee in 5 days' time. You got to show them. Yes, those tickets can be sold, but then they also can be put on StubHub for $37 with all fees included. And they could be $100 seats face value. That's how it gets nasty.
Well, and I get that X doesn't represent the fan base, but I talk to tons of people who are not, of course, involved in social media or anything like it. And obviously, we've all been around the diehards, the loyal diehards, the grads, the people that just love the boosters, that just love Florida State, and all of them are bereft. They are hurting right about now.
Yeah, the truth is somewhere in the middle. The fans aren't represented on X. I totally agree with that. But then on X, on Twitter, the athletic director liked a tweet that said there's a silent majority, that the vast majority of Noles support Mike Norvell. That's not true either.
Well, no, that's definitely not true. No.
So we all know this is somewhere in the middle, and the middle is.
I would argue it's not in the middle. I think that the vast majority of fans love Florida State and will love Florida State to the day they die. If you graduated from Florida State, if you support Florida State, if you're in this community, if you're a lifelong booster diehard, you're going to love Florida State whether we suck for the next 10 years or not. That part's true. That's different than supporting a coach who routinely produces losing seasons and is failing around every turn to develop players or recruit elite players, and doing so to the tune of $10 million per year in salary. No, sir. We're not doing all that. Nobody's going to sit there and accept that level of failure blindly and then just say, hey, well, it's what we are. See you next year. No, it will start having an effect. It's Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Your local news now.
A man wanted for murder in Okaloosa County was arrested in Tallahassee Wednesday evening. 20-year-old Gavari McQueen was taken into custody at an apartment complex on Lake Avenue and is facing an open count of murder. The shooting unfolded in Crestview on Wednesday. McQueen and the victim were in a vehicle together when they became involved in an altercation that led to gunshots shortly before 6 a.m. Eventually, a passing driver saw the victim on the road. They were later pronounced deceased from multiple gunshot wounds. McQueen is currently being held at the Leon County Jail. A two-vehicle crash occurred Thursday morning around Capitol Circle Northeast and Care Drive, prompting lanes in the area to be closed temporarily. At that time, southbound lanes on Capitol Circle Northeast were closed from Centerville Road to Care Drive. A TPD Watch commander confirmed the injuries were involved. This is an open and active investigation. This is Rachel Lene with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at macklemoresystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon, with daytime highs approaching 81. Winds out of the south, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies again tonight, lows around 64. A blend of clouds and sun with fog in spots early tomorrow, daytime highs approaching 82. This report is brought to you by The Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. currently $79.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Hey, Jeff, what's up, buddy?
I was just thinking, they never tell you that when you grow up, one of the things that you'll miss are the games that you created with your friends in the neighborhood.
Wow, good days.
So I would have my buddy come over, and then we'd make up these games that were kind of like a hodgepodge of every game that you've ever played.
Kind of like the bikes we built.
Correct. Yes. And it's a grand experiment. In the beginning, nobody knows how to play the game, and you argue about what the rules are going to be. And in the end, everybody knows how to play the game. By the end of that summer, you know the rules, the neighborhood know the rules, and you play that game like it's the greatest game ever played.
And they still try to break the rules, right?
Oh, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But at the end, Eddie, you're never going to play it again, and you'll think about it the rest of your life.
And the best game you ever played was that game.
Never been a better one.
Hey, you want to have a Gordo Smash, Jeff?
I do. I'd like that. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com multimedia network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
I got to get the audio corrected. My bad. They're good now. That one's actually on Tom, everybody.
No matter what. Yeah.
Well, this is
It's true. That is clicking at the people here on the YouTube side, but not on the radio side. If you're on the radio side, you're living clean, living good.
Yeah, you're good to go. It's just a weird little clickety-do thing on Libations Friday. Not ideal. We'll get it figured out at some point, probably by Monday when we come back on the air.
I've got another theory for the next break when we have 6 minutes to take a look at it, so I'm sure you're waiting with bated breath on that.
Can't wait to press all the new buttons. We'll do it. There's a question, Jeff and Tom, trying to find a positive in this season. Who's a player, position group, or a game that actually excites you this year? Well, I'll be honest with you. For all of my dismay, frustration, anger, and, I guess you'd say bleak outlook on the season and the situation, I don't think it'll ever go away. Get excited about the games no matter what. Like, I can know going into a season. Listen, you guys know I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates baseball fan. I've got a lot of experience with going into seasons with an understanding that could lose between 90 and 105 games this year. And I watch and I see the schedule and I go, all right, opening day. And there I am. Now, I may be a sucker, but I'm a lot closer to Florida State than I am the Pirates. I love my Noles. So I get excited. That's in me. I get excited about Florida State when I see the schedule or I think about football, even armed with the knowledge that it's not a good program right now. They're not a good football team right now. They've got a lot to prove and show that I have a reason to believe that we're coming out of it. But I'll still be giddy on, that first week when college football starts, in part because I love the sport, as messed up as it is, and part because I love Florida State. I'll be so excited to walk into that stadium. And there are often position groups, even when your team is bad, that you get excited to see play because they're littered with kids that can, or they're both good kids, hardworking kids, and exceptional athletes. Like, that was a very honest moment today in the press conference. Mike Norvell was speaking glowingly, and I think that it was very obvious that he feels this at its core about Deuce Robinson. And he was so excited that he was asked about Deuce because it gave him the chance to brag on him, and it gave him a chance to talk about not only what a great player he is, and he pointed that out, but what a great leader he is. And Tom and I, both know his dad, Dominic, very well. Dominic got to be proud to hear that about his son, and it makes me smile because, Dominic and I don't hang out, but I know him well, and we talk. So I'm excited for him that that's what his son is, and the way he's perceived, and the leader that he is, and the player that he is, obviously. That's exciting, and I think it's important that you have a few players like that, especially if they're your best players. They need to be some of your hardest workers, and they need to be great examples, and they need to be able to kind of take over. Player ownership of team is very important. And if you got a guy like that, who everybody else on that team knows is going to play in the National Football League, everybody else on that team knows he's one of the 3 best players on the team, if not the best player on the team. So when you see him working hard in the offseason, when you see him putting in the extra time, and when you listen to him talk, you can tell he's passionate, he cares. I'm excited to see what kind of season he had. In the midst of all of our problems at the quarterback position last year, in the midst of all of our problems with the mounting losses last year, the one consistent aspect of Florida State football, besides the losing, was the fact that he put on a show. Deuce ended up having more than 1,000 yards receiving with a quarterback who's inept and inaccurate, who couldn't read a defense. That's how good Deuce is. The whole world knew he was getting the ball. And he still put up those numbers. I think the best part about that too, Tom, with him coming back, he can get a lot better. He needed to come back, in my opinion. Now, it's hard to have that conversation without disparaging somebody. But I think if you're juxtaposing what he is as a football player last year, what is that? What is that? Because the difference in money and being a first-round draft pick and not is significant.
Hello, Jeff.
All right. Are we good? What is happening?
I couldn't explain it if I tried. And somebody said, can you recreate that sound in real life? I won't try, Valerie. I won't try. But the entire machine, the same one that you have, the screen went red, the whole thing, as though we were on this device here, as though we were under attack of some kind. The whole screen went red. Anyway, Deuce Robinson was the answer to the question for you. For me, it's easy living is asking about a game, and it's the SMU game. Legitimately, I'm excited about that game because you have enough new blood in the system. You have enough new players who haven't felt the toxicity of the last couple of years. And where you get SMU on the schedule is extremely beneficial to Florida State versus where they're playing their first game, you're playing your second game. If you are going to try to garner any forward momentum this season to get out in front and then stay out in front, which will be the different skill this year, you got to do it in an SMU game. And I love the way it lines up because it's a game of importance in terms of the national conversation. It's not, if it was Virginia, it wouldn't have the same kind of gusto to it. SMU's been good the first 2 years in the ACC. So
really good. They played for the conference title their very first year in the league. This is an aspect of frustration when you look around and you see the teams that compete for the title. Duke wins the ACC. Virginia was in contention to win the ACC. SMU played for the ACC title 2 years ago, was runner-up in essence this year. Get it together, Florida State. That's the aggravation.
Right. Well, and I don't think it's out of the realm to, especially when we get there, when you look at the circumstances of that particular game, I don't think it's out of the realm to feel pretty good about Florida State's chances. It sounds crazy now, but trust me, we get to Labor Day weekend, and if they look okay, they come out of camps, both of these camps healthy enough, you'll feel all right about that spot. Monday night, Doak Campbell, national television, good audience. That quarterback Jennings, who's been up and down against a group that now is led by Mike Norvell offensively, that, hey, maybe things look a little bit cleaner and a little bit more in rhythm than they did towards the end of the year with Gus, where things fell off of a cliff.
I really wish, and I know why you wouldn't do it, and it's not advisable, and it's not something that I truly thought would happen in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I first guessed it, said there's zero chance you're going to hear a disparaging remark about Gus. But I would have loved it if the level of acrimony had reached such a place at the end of his time that Mike just went scorched earth today, the first chance he got when he was asked about Gus. If he had just been like, I can't tell you what a relief it is to have that crotchety old man the hell off our campus. It's been really rough watching that curmudgeon walk this earth, pissed off at the level of his competence and its waning importance within our program. And so to see him leave, wouldn't it have been great? Just something. It would have been a shot in the arm in the moment. Not advisable, not what you want to do, but it would have been funny. I would have sat up in my chair. I would have been, oh, man, here we go. Let's get follow-ups going, everybody. We need follow-ups. Let it fly.
It could have been simple. You could have said, well, we got better as a football program. That's how I feel. I feel we are better today than we were 35 days ago as a football program. Next question. Woo-wee.
He could have, right. But he did. He was successful at avoiding it, and I'm proud of him for that. But you could – I do think, like you read between the lines and you were looking for life in the eyes and all those things. I could sense that there was I'm glad to be back calling plays. He really wanted to make it a point to praise all the different coaches that are that are either in new positions or affirmed in the positions that they have them in. I think he really wanted that to be like kind of the message anytime he's asked about Gus. Hour number 3, final hour. It's live. We'll be with you in a moment. Hang tight.
Hot Wheels fans, are you ready? The world's biggest Hot Wheels Monster Truck Show is coming to your town. Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Live, glowing fire. See the world-famous Bigfoot, Tiger Shark, Bone Shaker, and the premiere of Rhino-Mite. Epic monster truck stunts, a no-handed freestyle motocross front flip, a giant fire-breathing robot, and more wows than ever before. Meet the monster trucks up close at the all-new pre-show party. Coming April 11th and 12th to Donald L. Tucker Civic Center in Tallahassee. Get tickets now.
You probably already know that Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas is your one-stop destination for all pool maintenance needs, offering everything you need from chemicals, cleaners, vacuums, nets, and more. But that's not all. Pinch a Penny also carries a huge selection of premium hot springs hot tubs paired with easy financing options, making these luxury hot tubs affordable for everyone. And if you have an older hot tub and you're worried about the hassle of removing it, worry no more. Pinch a Penny will not only remove and haul away your old hot tub, but also offer a trade-in value for a credit towards your new one. So why wait? Visit Pinch a Penny's 12,000 square foot showroom today on Greer Road and discover how effortless and affordable owning a fantastic hot tub can be. Find out more at TallahasseeHotSpring.com. That's TallahasseeHotSpring.com.
It's where you raise your kids, where friends become family, where every corner has a story worth telling. It's your neighborhood. At ABC 27, we share those stories, bringing you news that connects communities, builds pride, and reminds us we're part of something bigger. We are ABC 27, in your neighborhood.
T-Spark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Spark, T-SparkConstruction.com. We Conquer all peaks. We fix those darn leaks. Call 850-766-1340. T-Spark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Spark Construction.com.
License number CCC 1331204.
Hey. For charge and drink specials too, like $3 select domestic beers and more. And if you enjoy international soccer, 7 Pill opens early. $2 mimosas on Sundays, anyone? The 7 Pill Tap Room, 2475 Appalachie Parkway, just downstairs from Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
WBFT Gretna, Tallahassee. This is Real Talk 93.3. More of the Jeff Cameron Show is coming up next. Your sports action update on Real Talk 93.3 with all the latest odds from Vegas.
Daniel Berger, the first-round leader of the Arnold Palmer Invitational at 9 under par. He's plus 530 to win it. Scotty Scheffler 6-1. He's 2 under, 7 back, and tied for 18. NASCAR Ryan Blaney 5-1 with the Straight Talk Wireless 500 at Phoenix Raceway on Sunday in the Cup Series. UNC Wilmington $1.45 favorite against Jacksonville plus 114 in baseball today. North Florida a $3.50 dog against Alabama. Crimson Tide minus 520 favorites. Braves minus 105 of the Twins of the Grapefruit League in Fort Myers. Rays plus 130 of the Yankees in Tampa. Score $500 in rewards with the G-Bank First Bet VSiN Trifecta. Details at vsin.com/GBank.
With your VSiN Action Update, I'm Tony Desiri on the Vegas Stats and Information Network.
A KFC tale in the pursuit of flavor. The greatest insult the Colonel ever suffered was being served a wrap that was just a snack by a friend. So he took 2 crispy tenders, lettuce, tomatoes, and pepper mayo, and wrapped them in a soft tortilla. It wasn't a snack, it was a meal. He called it a twister and never called that friend again. The Colonel lived so we could chicken. The Twister. Now back at KFC, classic or with bacon. Also try it spicy. It's finger-licking good.
Prices and participation may vary. Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like rugs. And people say a rug would really bring the room together. And sure, you don't know what that means, but it sounds important. Suddenly you're using words like jute and sisal. Then you see the price and lose it, because how can the thing you walk and spill on cost so much? So you devote your life to taking down big rug. But then you remember that switching your home and auto to Progressive could save you hundreds. So looks like big rug is safe. For now. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Water is your home's worst enemy. It finds cracks, soft spots, and weaknesses. But not on our watch. At Gutter Solutions and Waterproofing, we're veteran-owned and built different, driven by detail and the pursuit of excellence. We install seamless gutters, underground drainage, and waterproofing systems that don't fail. Because when you live with discipline, water doesn't stand a chance. Gutter Solutions and Waterproofing. Visit guttersolutions.net. With us, it's personal.
Not again, Florida man. Let me guess. New Year's resolution?
Yep, I signed up for the Florida Man Gym. Day one was high knees to the swamp. Hank, my alligator, made it look like he was a gazelle tromping through there. We're flipping tractor tires, chopping cycler stumps, and doing 12-ounce curls. And then I'm over there yanking on an outboard motor that won't start, because that's our cardio. And Hank, he's over there planking on a lily pad.
Okay, but how exactly did you hurt yourself?
Well, I tried to keep up with Hank on the swamp run. I twisted my back halfway through the mud crawl, face planted on a turtle, and that gator was laughing at me.
If your New Year's resolution includes back pain, bold pride, or gator-induced humiliation, Fenn Chiropractic has your realignment redemption.
Next year, I'm just going to buy Hank a new airboat. That way we can glide through the swamp.
New year, new spine, same old Florida man. Get straightened out this year at Fenn Chiropractic. Online at fennchiro.com. That's FENNCHIRO.com.
I'll never forget
that moment.
As long as I live.
As long as I live.
My first call-up ever as a member of the National Guard.
When we got to the armory, they briefed us on the wildfires. They were getting dangerously close to homes.
Helicopters were going out to drop water on the fires. Guys in the unit were preparing for firefighting with local fire crews. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the Florida National Guard. Aired by the Florida Association of Broadcasters and this station.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
You're you're here. We appreciate you. If you're driving about town, listening on 93.3 FM, thanks for supporting local. If you are watching on Warchant TV, thanks for supporting local. Yeah, there you go. All right, we're good. Sorry about the technical difficulties we're having today, guys. Some of that is completely out of our hands. Most of it is completely out of our hands. That last one was fun. That's on me. I'll take ownership of that one, Tommy. That one was on me. A little delayed there. I missed by 7 seconds. It can happen.
You know, that's the amount of time that we used to have for the delay when there was the delay button that we built in each day. And it would warp the sound for a little while. I got to 7 seconds of delay. Never had to really hit the button too often. But if Deuce Robinson were here, he would set the tone. He would come in himself to the room to both of us and say, the standard. Let's take a look at the standard. Mike would look at Deuce, and Deuce would look at Mike, and then Deuce would go walk in the room. That's what I learned today.
Yeah. I learned very little today, but hey, there was nothing that was catastrophic today, Tom, and that's the better way to look at it, because in the last few times when I've had to assess anything related to Florida State football, I've gone, oh, no. I didn't do that today. Nothing stood out to the point where I went, man, it just keeps getting worse. It's about where I thought we were. Nothing catastrophic happened today, other than I think it would have been better if they held the little get together, the kickoff luncheon. I think that would have been better if they had held it in the football only facility, just for aesthetics. But it's what it is. And for those that are asking, no spring game. We didn't talk about that last hour. We talked about Mike's sentiments and his thoughts on the roster and what he was looking forward to and what he had to say and my thoughts about what he had to say and all those things. I will just note that, I'm not as devastated as some people are about the fact that there's no spring game. And I'll tell you that it's a missed opportunity to have people come to the stadium and maybe even spend money to come to the stadium and watch your product and maybe create some enthusiasm. I don't know if it still does anymore. Meaning the spring game, not FSU football. We've talked about that. I rather liked this answer. I thought that answer was absolutely spot on because I've been saying that for a while now, that the spring game has been so bastardized over the years. Really, again, going all the way back to, a devastating injury and seeing Dan Kendra go down. I was in the stadium that day. Seeing Dan Kendra go down and blow out his knee and me thinking, well, that'll be the last time a quarterback is ever live in a spring game ever again. And in that moment, you could say, by definition, the spring game wasn't going to be as fun because it was no longer ever going to be a real game. You can't hit the quarterback. The game's not played the same way if you're not allowed to hit the quarterback. And then it did get silly. Started blowing whistles for guys if you just got in the general vicinity of a quarterback. Well, when you have a really mobile quarterback, we all know that's unrealistic. You remember watching that You're thinking to yourself with Jordan Travis, that's not a sack. That guy wouldn't have sacked Jordan there. He'd have run for 40 yards. So it wasn't a real representation of what was going to happen there. And they continued to add to that. Like, it became less and less and less of a game. It was situational. And then it became, sort of, they didn't do a great job. And not just Florida State. This is anywhere when you watch these spring games. They don't always do a really good job of communicating with the fans. Hey, this is a drill, or this is a 2-point play, and it's not really indicative of us trying to score per se. I just want to see a certain look. And I don't know. I always thought the best part about it was just the gathering of like-minded fans who love Florida State, in our case, or whoever the program is that they're following, a chance for people to get together, see one another, have a few cold beers on a beautiful afternoon, go sit in the stadium that they have great memories in. But it was never the game. Like, it had stopped being about the game for a long time. And I thought that it was kind of a no-win situation oftentimes for coaches and players. You're not going to look good in that situation. And you're actually taking away for what could have been another productive practice, like an in-earnest practice, a real scrimmage where you could go live, everybody except the quarterback, and you could get after it. But you dialed back that because you didn't want people to see your plays and you didn't want people to see your personnel. So I think we finally were inexorably headed towards this. And today, when Mike answered the question, I thought that was honest. We value these practices and these opportunities to scrimmage. If I was going to have to hide players and hide plays and not treat that final practice or scrimmage as something real to get better, then we would just be lessening the opportunity we had with the limited number of live padded practices that we're allowed to have, and I don't want to do that. Well, okay, even if you didn't believe that were true, I would say that is a fair point to make when you've gone 5-7 and 2-10, respectively, these last 2 years. It's a very fair point to make that you cannot waste a single opportunity to scrimmage the way you would if you were calling everything on that play sheet for both sides of the ball, and to sub and to time manage and to utilize your personnel the way you would if it were a game tomorrow. And you wouldn't do that if the cameras were on and the stadium was filled. So I was fine with it. That when he gave that answer, I went, there it is. That's straightforward and honest. I think that's real.
Well, it's saying the quiet part out loud. That's for sure. That's at minimum what it's doing. I think at that point, you'd be better off just doing what Jimbo did back in the day, which is for a fan day, opening up a practice itself, just a normal practice. We're not calling it a showcase. We're not billing it a game. It's just you can come in and watch us practice that day. And I think maybe that's the path forward, because a practice, you don't necessarily have to script things that opponents are going to see. You can just run your drills. You meet up for a little bit of 11-on-11 or red zone situationals at the end of practice, and then you're done. The problem with the showcase was the last couple of years that it did happen, remember, they would do, as they did in full practice, special teams drills for a good 15 or 20 minutes, to the point where the television coverage had no idea what to do in that situation, which was always very frustrating. But I think maybe that's the way that you could meet the middle, is just build a practice, have it be one of your base days where you don't install anything super crazy for opponents, or you install a couple of trick plays that you would never use against SMU, but then you get in the building, you get people to buy their way into the building. Maybe you have the marching chiefs out there playing while practice is going on. It does get the juices flowing for the players a little bit, so you can adjust and see how they do with a little bit of added adrenaline or whatever it is. But you also don't violate what you're trying to do, which is to get 3 scrimmages. The idea of getting 3 scrimmages in a spring, I agree with you. That's a good idea. I think he was searching for an answer that sounded good and was true or met in the middle, and he found it about halfway through into that answer, because he was not expecting that question, I don't think.
Well, I wanted to say that's the right answer. Like, I wanted to point to him and go, that's the right answer. You got it right. You may not have meant to, but you did. You got it right. Good job, Coach. Anybody else? What if I had just taken over the press conference that way? Anybody else got more questions? Just usurp Derek's authority? Like,
you become the SID? All right. We'll take 2 more. 2 more.
2 more. Derek, we're going to take 2 more. 2 more. Aslan, you got anything back there? No? You good? All right.
Well,
Chris,
yeah. You just ask only the Warchant people. Aslan, anything else? Ira, Corey, Gene, Matt, Nick, Tom, anybody? No? I think we're done here, everybody. Okay, thank you. That's all.
That's the end of it. That's the end of it. Jerry's waving his hand repeatedly. No, Jerry, nobody wants to hear that question. Come on now. You know, you got to let it go, big man. You got to let it go. No, I'm kind of kidding.
You're only picking on Jerry because his name's Jerry, and you love Jerry's.
I get along with Jerry just fine. Now it was all tongue in cheek, but yeah, I would say that he got the answer right when he said that. I was there. You go. Hey, that's the right one. That's the right one. Sometimes he's picking. No, that's not the right door. Go to the other door. Go to the other door. That's not the right answer.
Well, then if you open the door, you got to walk through it. No, don't keep going. Walk through that door. That's the one. We're holding back. We don't want the opponent to get a better idea. We want 3 scrimmages that are full go. Fantastic.
Stay with it. That's the succinct, correct way to go about it. I got asked the question via text, and I saw it in response on the various social medias about Mike's press conference today and the fillers that he's accustomed to using. I don't think it was particularly prominent today. We've seen way worse. Like I said, I think he was a little bit more relaxed today. He seemed casual and in good spirits. I don't think he was beaten down. He shouldn't be. He ought to be a coach that's excited. What I mean by that is, look, the last 2 years have been awful. There's no getting around that. But you're not going to belabor that point on a day like today. And fans don't expect you to revisit any of that. And if anything, you've got an opportunity to improve on that. It begins today. It begins in earnest, Monday when they start practicing. This is, I would think, no matter, because coaches have to lie to themselves a lot. I think all competitors do. No matter, that's me, that's you, that's anybody. You're investing an awful lot of emotional and physical wear and tear. There's an awful lot of, obviously the hours alone. Nobody likes to think that they're doing that for a fruitless cause. Nobody likes to think that they're doing that and it's not going to get them ultimately to where they want to go. And I really wouldn't want a guy sitting there talking to me if he didn't believe they had a chance to get better. So I think deep down he feels like they can get better. Now, if you could feed him some truth serum and say, hey, what's the best this roster can do for you? If you do your best job, if your staff does their best job, what do you really think the talent level can achieve here? Because we're not loaded. I mean, this roster is not Miami's roster. It's not some of the better rosters around college football, obviously. But it's not a 5-7 roster. It shouldn't be. And you're trying to find whatever that is between a 10-win team and a 2-win team. Like what can you expect if you operate at peak efficiency? 8 wins?
Yeah, I think if you're him, you start with, and I know this sounds defeatist, but understand what we're talking about first, and secondly, hear me out. Let me finish, which is compete in every game. That's the starting point. You should be able to compete into the second half of every single game against all of these opponents. Does that mean you're better than 3 or 4 of them? No. But does it mean that you should be blown out by them in the first half and trot into the halftime locker room saying, well, this game's already over? No. That's where it would start. At all 12 games, you're competitive into the second half with all those opponents. I think that would be the starting point. You're not going to win all of those, but you don't want to have this thing snowball on you the way it has very often in the last 2 seasons, which is once you get into, say, the 10-minute mark of the second quarter, we all understand what's happening here. That's what 2-10 was an awful lot of the season. Frankly, down the stretch last year, even though some of those games were in touch, we knew by the middle of the second quarter that the offense didn't have it today. Like, man, that ain't cool. You're just in the second quarter, and we feel like this is a race to 17, and it's not because the other defense is on fire or is a top 15 unit. You don't want to feel helpless in the first half of football games. That would be the first thing. The second thing, I think with the roster the way it is, 7 to 9 wins, I think, is your scope based upon injury luck, turnover luck, situational excellence, or situational failure. I think all those things can help stack you to be 7, 8, 9 wins good. Problem is last year's team was good enough to win 8 football games. They only won 5. So you got to get a lot better in whatever those intangibles are.
Comes back to the quarterback, doesn't it? I mean, I don't think they're going to be appreciably better on the offensive line. I think this offensive line will be, at best, as good as last year's offensive line, which was okay. It's okay. I don't think they're going to be appreciably better at wide receiver. They get Deuce back. He was really good last year. He'll be good again this year. Maybe even a little bit better. Running back, I guess, maybe a little bit better. I don't know. Not markedly so. They're not going to be tons better at tight end, I don't suppose. It's going to be the quarterback. He's got to be a lot better.
It's the quarterback. It's the route tree that Mike decides to use. It's the formations, the combinations, the routes. Ashton has very different strengths and weaknesses than Tommy does. So how do you coach around them? How do you accentuate the strengths? I did quickly. Did you make anything of the running back question and discussion? That one, I couldn't understand what he was trying to say, that they're going to continue with massive amounts of road. Okay. All right.
I could show you my notes. I could show you my notes right now. I wrote, I'll do it. I wrote here. I don't want you to see the rest of my notes. There's a note here, I promise you, and it says running back room answer gibberish.
Okay. So that wasn't just me. If you were in the room, it felt the same way as if you were watching on the stream. Okay.
It just felt like nonsensical prattle. I was just thinking, like, what do you do? There's the one part where he says, well, I don't think there's any running back room across the country where it's just one guy. Well, no, nobody wants it to be one guy. We're not asking you that. We just want to know, like, what was the reasoning behind the substitution patterns? Why did 17 different guys play all the time? And why, after a guy had a successful run, was he taken out immediately and not seen again for 25 plays? I mean, he knows what the question was. I don't think he loved the way that worked. And I do think it will be different, but I just don't think he wanted to engage in, lampooning the way that they did things last year from a substitution pattern. At no point was he going to pillory the other coaches that, anybody that's not there anymore. He was going to just kind of try to answer it. That was his least effective answer. Let's put it that way.
Well, and the problem is it's not a one-year issue. He did it himself before Gus got here. We thought that Gus was going to arrive and the inexplicable running back rotation substitution thing was going to be over, because Gus's track record suggests bell cow or split between two guys and then two guys only. Much like the way that Deuce saw targets and catches. That was the way the running back room was supposed to work. So what I'm concerned about here, and you won't be able to answer it until we get into the season, that this is a Mike issue, and it always has been a Mike issue, that it wasn't a Gus issue, that maybe Mike had more input on the running back rotation, or because there are some behind-the-scenes stuff about touch counts and what was promised on the trail. He talked about Chroma, and he singled out Chroma quite a bit in the 30 minutes, but I just couldn't make heads or tails of that running back answer, so I'm glad that you heard it was gibberish too. That doesn't give me a lot of hope that we're going to have a much more clear distribution of carries this season.
I think we will. I think Chroma and Wisner are going to get the bulk of the carries. I would think. Seems to me. But I understand what you're saying. Yeah, that answer didn't lead to that. Although the emphasis being on Chroma, I liked. Can you imagine? Now, you're Chroma. You were recruited by Georgia. You committed to Georgia. Georgia, yes, will have more than one running back, but they'll usually have a bell cow. They'll have a guy that they love that's an elite player. They've churned him out. And you were going to that place. That's where you were headed. Very successful program. They've been very physical. Running backs have been a big part of that. And then at the last second, you both bought into whatever it was that Mike Norvell and his staff sold you, in addition to whatever money they gave you. But I don't think it was purely about the money, because you were going to make money when you went to Georgia. It had to be some sort of vision coupled with money, a lot of money even. But there's no way that last year was satisfactory for you and your family in that decision that you made. You would have to be genuinely perturbed by the way that played out. And so I don't know, Tom, I think that That's a guy they're paying a lot of money to, man. I understand that ought not be the reason or dictate things at all times, but when you invest in somebody, just like in the NFL these days, if you've invested in a player because you see the strength and the talent, get the most out of your investment.
Well,
don't be out here pussyfooting on your investment now. You got it. Let's go.
What's confusing about that is everywhere else on the offense last year, they did, but not running back. Quarterback, he wouldn't come off of Tommy. He wouldn't do anything but back Tommy the entire season in pressers, even after concussions and injuries and mistakes and losses.
Yeah, but we know why that was. That was both money and they didn't have a viable backup.
Deuce obviously was featured. It's not like you're going to try and rotate guys in the offensive line. Thankfully, that was put to bed when Atkins left. The offensive line rotation thing didn't happen anymore. So you saw a clear line of delineation of third drive of the game. Oh, these 3 dudes are in there too. No, we've got 6 guys we trust, and it's kind of like 5.5. So we're going to run with these dudes. And then same thing at tight end as well. If he was healthy, obviously you'd be using Randy Pittman a whole lot more. But it wasn't like they were rotating a bunch of guys there and the targets were distributed all over the place. But specifically at running back, this is a multi-year thing. It begs, it has to be that it's Wisner, Chroma. They also complement each other's styles very, very well. I'm just worried that by the time we get to game 4, game 5, for some reason we have an Amari Thomas game where he's got 7 touches, or Danzy's back there in the backfield getting 6 carries. It's going to be a concern.
Did you see Chroma's weight?
I did not. No.
225, pure muscle. He was 218 last year, I think. 225. That's a horse, man. If you can ever get going downhill, if you can get a lead and battering ran some bitches, that'd be ideal. We never do, but it would be awesome just to downhill, test people's chin, test people's willingness. It happens to us when teams face us, but you got to, obviously Florida did it. Florida's like, hey, I got a guy right here.
Yeah, the perfect way, in the last 15 years, I think the ideal thing that you're talking about is second half Florida State Clemson 2012. That's the night that Chad Morris kept on scoring on Mark Stoops and Jimbo said we're all good. The way that James Wilder closed out that game. It was Wilder who was given the ball. And I remember Brent Musburger, I think, fell in love that night almost as much as he did with Sturger. He was Wilder breaks another one. There he goes. Another broken tackle for Wilder. That's what Chroma has in him, is that fourth quarter closers kind of energy. They kind of run similarly, too, that they just won't go down.
Yeah, they refuse to go down. A little too tall in the way that they run. Yeah, it's fascinating. Chef Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment.
What do you need tires on? Your car or truck, tractor or heavy equipment? At Nice Tire and Auto Service, we have tires for all these needs. And we service your vehicle from air conditioning and computerized alignment to oil changes and everything else under the hood. Call Nice Tire and Auto today at 574-4100. That's 574-4100 for your scheduled maintenance. National accounts welcome at Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, just west of Capitol Circle.
There's a common feeling about big car dealerships. The pressure, the back and forth, the feeling that you're being sold to instead of listened to. All the stereotypes are negative, and that's why Tallahassee Ford decided to be different. At Tallahassee Ford, the experience starts with a conversation, not a sales pitch. We take the time to understand what you actually need, what fits your lifestyle, and what makes sense for your budget. No games, no gimmicks, just honest answers, transparent pricing, and a team that believes trust matters more than quick deals. Whether you're buying new, used, or trusting us with your vehicle service, you'll feel the difference the moment you walk in. Come visit us at Tallahassee Ford. It's not your typical dealership experience because Tallahassee deserves better. Visit Tallahassee Ford today.
We're ready to rock and roll at the 2026 Florida Lineman Competition. Join us at Appalachia Regional Park in Tallahassee on March 14th and cheer on your hometown heroes. Line crews from across Florida will compete in exciting events that showcase the skill, teamwork, and training it takes to keep our communities powered. Bring the whole family and find all the details at calgov.com. See you at the Florida Lineman Competition.
I'm Michael Garrison, third generation here at Metal Roofing Sales of Tallahassee. It's a common misunderstanding that a metal roof is more expensive than a traditional shingle roof. At Metal Roofing Sales of Tallahassee, we'll show you how affordable it really can be. A metal roof far exceeds the durability and lifespan of a shingle roof, saving you thousands of dollars over time. Not only do we have the technology to fabricate and produce the best materials, we have the most experienced contractors to install your roof as well. And we will match or beat any other price in tile. Find us online at metalroofingsales.net. You can trust the 3 generations of service under one roof.
Football season is here, Tallahassee. Are you ready for backyard watch parties, burgers on the grill, and game day glory? Wait, now with those leaves piled up like a linebacker blocking the end zone. Call the lunge on. We'll tackle those falling leaves. Clean up your yard and lay down fresh pine straw or mulch so your lawn looks like a championship field. Don't fumble your fall cleanup. Call the Lawn Johns today and let's score you the best looking yard on the block. The Lawn Johns. Your lawn, our game.
You probably already know that Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas is your one-stop destination for all pool maintenance needs, offering everything you need from chemicals, cleaners, vacuums, nets, and more. But that's not all. Pinch a Penny also carries a huge selection of premium hot springs hot tubs paired with easy financing options, making these luxury hot tubs affordable for everyone. And if you have an older hot tub and you're worried about the hassle of removing it, worry no more. Pinch a Penny will not only remove and haul away your old hot tub, but also offer a trade-in value for a credit towards your new one. So why wait? Visit Pinch a Penny's 12,000 square foot showroom today on Greer Road and discover how effortless and affordable owning a fantastic hot tub can be. Find out more at TallahasseeHotSpring.com. That's TallahasseeHotSpring.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Tony asked the question, so I'll answer it. Do you think Wednesday's game was a sign of things to come with the Bats or a bad game by Mercer? I think they barreled up more balls. Well, look, I think obviously they did barrel up more balls. Now you got to ask yourself, was that just a terrible night for Mercer pitching, or is Florida State starting to get a little bit more healthy, starting to get guys in the game that with greater consistency in terms of their ABs? I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, anytime there's a 13-run inning, somebody did something poorly on the other side. That's just not about offensive prowess. It got away from them. They started to hit batters and walk people and put people on, and then therefore the damage was done. Anything that reached the alley was going to score a bunch of runs. So, I did say in the recorded hour that Tom and I did in order to give me the buffer I needed from the press conference back to here, we talked some about baseball, and I talked about how I do think there are guys that are getting healthier and gaining confidence. And, offense is tough. It's one of those things in baseball. I mean, one of the hardest things in the world to do is to, hit a round ball with a round bat squarely. And so it's something that it's a game of failure. People struggle. But within it, if you have some success and you begin to turn the corner a little bit, it might be fool's gold on the surface when you face a team that's having a tough night on the mound and you go 4 for 4. That may not be something that portends of offensive prowess for the next 6 weeks, but I do know that it infuses one with confidence, and having that success can't hurt you. It's not necessarily a case where you are falsely emboldened by your ABs. You need to feel good when you step into the batter's box. And we need more guys across this lineup to start feeling good when they step to the plate. Guys beyond, obviously, Miles Bailey, who always feels very comfortable when he steps to the plate. Armed with his offensive firepower, I'd feel real good too. He's got such a simple approach. It's not just that he's big and strong. He's got a professional approach. It's the 1 foot up, immediately back down, not a lot of movement there. Head stays on the ball. Power for days to all fields. That guy's got an approach that's going to play, and he's going to get drafted and paid millions of dollars because of it. All that's true. But they have other guys that can hit here, and the more that those guys get healthy and the more that they get opportunities to play and the more Link begins to figure out who fits where and why, yeah, I think the offense will get better and better. You know, you won't watch a series this weekend against Northern Kentucky or whomever it is tonight and say to yourself, oh, Florida State won all 3 games. Man, are they on a roll? They're going to kick Wake Forest's ass. You won't jump to that conclusion based on the results, but you will have an assessment of how you think they're playing going into the more important parts of their schedule, which will feature Florida and Wake here real soon. I do think it a really good sign that they're pitching better. They're locating better. You know, the other night watching Stokes' slider, I mean, that is a major league slider. I know that because the Major League Scout said that to me. But it's not just that. Those numbers, if you were to see those numbers, it's unbelievable. That is a 2-pitch arsenal. I mean, he's got a 3rd and 4th pitch, but those 2 pitches play at the next level. When you're going to throw 98, you're going to throw a slider that breaks as much as his does. If you can throw it for a strike and get them off a sitting dead red, well, then you're going to have a very effective late inning guy in leverage situations that miss bats. That's excuse me. That's huge. In addition, you know, we talked about Abraham, and I was tough love Cameron with him for a while. Well, I can get off of that now. It worked. He looks sensational. We'll see how much he pitches this weekend. Is he a guy that's fighting to get into that rotation or at least be the Tuesday starter, the midweek guy? There are guys. And Moore in his last start looked really, really good. So I'm excited about the possibilities. I would refrain from calling them anything close to elite just yet, but the potential upside of a lot of different players right now becoming more consistent excites me about where this team could be. They certainly have to continue to get better because they don't have the offensive firepower that the last 2 teams did, but they've got to get closer. They got to shorten the gap from where those 2 teams were and where this team has been prior to the other night.
Yeah, they could score a bunch of runs this weekend, call it 27, and I don't know how much you could take away from that individually. What I will say is we'll learn how important this weekend was and how important this whole week was with the 2 midweek games on Tuesday when you see the lineup, on Friday when you see the lineup, and next Saturday, where maybe some of those positions in the infield are manned by guys we didn't expect to see. And you say, really? Link's going with that player. That's where I think the fruits of whatever's going on right now are going to bear, is how does he line them up on Tuesday against Florida? How does he sequence the staff on Tuesday against Florida? That's the better tell, because I think on its own this weekend, if you see a lot of run production, not saying it has to be the same thing as what we did on Wednesday night to Mercer, but if you see good at bats and batted balls, that's awesome if you're going to the game and you want to root for the Noles to win. The takeaways part's going to be very difficult. So what I'm trying to say is, me personally on Monday, let's say the offense is very good all weekend. I'm going to say the same thing. I want to see what the lineup card says on Tuesday, because that tells me how Link Jarrett internalized what he saw over the week, which is the more important thing.
Well, I can give you the lineup right now for tonight. I just got it. Stutz is leading off in left field. So they like the way that he's playing right now. Sheffield is playing right field and hitting number 2. Obviously, Miles Bailey in the 3-hole at first base. Carnes is back at catcher. He's hitting the ball hard, not doing a great job of catching. Putnam is at second. There you go. There you go. We like the way he's hitting the ball. Paulino gets the start at DH. All right. Again, hits the ball hard. Fisher is at shortstop, hitting 7th. Bavaro gets another start. He has a great night the other night, gives him the start at third base. And Williams chases in center. And then obviously pitching is Mendez today. So that's what you got.
Okay. So still waiting on Dowd, and the concussion protocol hasn't been cleared for Brody. Those are 2 big takeaways there. The infield shuffle is going to be the one where you say, all right, so whatever's going on in practice and in the games, Link knows. But I think the outfield is a very simple thing. Outside of maybe center, you might be able to experiment in center a little bit if Chase continues to struggle. But I think we all expect that if Dowd's healthy and DeLon Malier is healthy, they're both going to be out there and they're going to be an ink in the card. No
Frazier in this lineup, obviously. And, yeah, Dowd's got to get healthy because he will be a starter back again once he is. Okay. It's going to be interesting. they don't have a plus shortstop defensively. So I don't really care if who they put at shortstop. Like none of them are going to be great. Cal is serviceable there. He's not a great shortstop. He makes the routine play. But he does lack some range there. So look, bottom line is that guy's got to hit. He's got to be hitting better than he's hitting.
Yeah, and sometimes one can affect the other. If you feel out of place defensively or out of sorts confidence-wise at the plate, it can affect you defensively and vice versa. The players that are the most mature are the ones that go through slumps at the plate and it doesn't affect their defense, or vice versa. They had 3 errors in 2 games, but they hit you a home run and a couple of doubles. Those are the guys that you love that are mentally tough. I thought this before the season started, that you might see if Florida State gets in a position where the bats come to life, the arms are doing well, you will see defensive replacements galore in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings of games that matter. Typically, that's like at first base and in the outfield. I think you're going to see defensive replacements in other positions in the infield as well, which is not as typical, but it feels like that's where this is going with this team.
Shannon Young, my man, made the move to be part of the nation's largest mortgage company. That's Cross Country Mortgage. That's not why I brag about him. I brag about him because he's really good at his job. He's honest. He's hardworking. He can provide you with better rates, better options, stronger support, and a faster response thanks to being a part of the largest mortgage country mortgage, I should say cross country mortgage company in the country, and in 7 different states: Florida, Georgia, Bama, Tennessee, Texas, and the Carolinas. But it's really about that unwavering commitment to you and the process and understanding it and how to get it done. And he does for our listeners, for Knowles everywhere and non-Knowles. We've had those calls. We've had those receipts, as they say. We've found a lot of folks that have chimed in over the last year to say, thanks for hipping me to Shannon. He did a great job, and he's a great guy. He is that. Loansforknowles.com is where you want to go to learn more. That's loansforknowles.com. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Your local news now.
Dixie County Sheriff's deputies say a couple collected mud. Jail, and the investigation is ongoing. This is Rachel Anay with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Lots of sunshine this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 81. South winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 64 tonight. Partly cloudy skies. Daytime highs approaching 82 with fog in spots early tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently, it's 81 degrees.
When I get home from work, I'm ready to relax. So I call Swain Pools and Spas to put my pool in the back. I call Swain Pools and Spas. Now I'm soaking up the fun when I want to.
Swain Pools and Spas is your pool and spa everything store. Swain sells them, Swain repairs them, Swain renovates them, Swain services them. Swain even has pool and spa supplies. And they'll test your water too. Nobody, and I mean nobody, knows more about pools and spas than Swain. Almost 40 years of quality, reliability, and service. Look for the big Swain sign on Tharp Street. Call them at 386-7113 or online at SwainPools.com.
Hurricane season begins June 1st, but preparation starts now. Florida's severe weather season is underway, and the same steps that help you prepare for hurricanes Making a plan, gathering supplies, and staying informed also help protect you during severe weather today. For simple step-by-step guidance, visit FloridaMakeAPlan.com. One plan can help you prepare for many storms. Brought to you by the Florida Division of Emergency Management, the University of Florida, and the Florida Association of Broadcasters.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Wrapping it up, loosey-goosey Friday edition. Nearly over. Loosey-goosey. Let's check those scores, Tom. Let's check where we're at. Okay, Ludwig. It's my guy hanging in there, but more importantly, Daniel Berger's still atop the Arnold Palmer, where the guy on my screen here, or I don't know if I'm on the screen. I don't know if you're on the screen or not. I'm not looking. I'm looking at scores. Is going to be there to cheer him on. We'll see.
He's looking at what, final pairing? Is it a good shot? He's in the final pairing tomorrow.
Well, he's in first place at -13. He's 4 under for the day, and he's 6 shots ahead of the next closest.
Oh, he's okay. There you go. See, I have not looked at the leaderboard once today. Yesterday, I watched it like a hawk. Today, I have not seen a thing. So that's good to hear.
Ludwig is in second. So my pizza money pick on him is still alive. He's in the clubhouse at -7. Thigala, who is healthy this year, back playing good golf, is sitting there tied with Ludwig, and a Ricky Fowler sighting everybody at -6. Go, buddy. Get ready for all the ladies to be screaming about Ricky.
Yeah, I think where we're posting up tomorrow for most of the day is actually where Rory had a bit of trouble yesterday, 11, 12, and 13. A lot of water holes. You got that par 5 on the back that there's like that little runway that you can run the ball up through. It's very difficult to do with the bunkers. And then 13 is there's the par 5 where Rory had a wedge in and he somehow went into the rocks. So, yeah.
That other pick that I sprinkled a top 20 finish on, Akshay Bhatia today, having a fine afternoon. He's moved all the way up into T7, Tom. Here we go. We are in a place right now. We are okay. Cameron's lineup is in a good spot as we get set to enter the weekend.
You know, the one thing that I'll be doing tomorrow, other than sweating, because it's very warm here in Orlando this week, it got to 90 yesterday.
Ooh, that's not what you do.
The forecast called for 84. These people, they just lie. And
just make it up.
So last night I looked at the phone at 7:00, sitting down. What did it get to? It said 90. Okay. All right. I will be bittersweetly watching Florida State basketball. I'm sorry that it's over. I'm enjoying this team, that they only have one more crack at this in terms of a home game, in terms of a conference game. Tomorrow it's at 2:00 is the tip. I'm posting the Luke Laux interview right now on the Press Room channel, our alternate channel. And it makes me sad because I know that we're promised a game next week for the one magic week we're going to get. But I wish this team had another 2 months to play. They've been fun.
It's been a remarkable turnaround, and I think a very exciting one. I have showered them with praise. I've wanted to be careful in the way that we assess what this season is, but there is no way to describe this as anything other than a success based on the very limited expectations of year one, inheriting a bit of a mess, makeshift putting together a roster on the fly and a staff, but also your head coach admitting that, look, I've not been a college basketball head coach before, ever, and there are things I'm going to have to learn from my staff. There are things I'm going to have to learn about the game that's different than the NBA, where I've spent the last number of years in professional basketball, both when I was a player overseas and then when I got my job with Golden State in the front office, and then began working my way towards the bench as an assistant later on, and then got that opportunity again with Sacramento. We were further up the ladder there in coaching, got a chance to coach in the summer league and did very, very well as a head coach there. That's all the coaching experience he had. A far cry from being the head man in college basketball, where player acquisition's a lot different. Certainly the way the game is played is different. There are real deficiencies to college basketball players. I mean, very real deficiencies. The shooting is not anything close to what you see in the NBA. And there are problems with the NBA too, of course, load management being chief amongst them. But I've enjoyed watching him mature rapidly on the job because of what it portends. And for me, that is the most exciting part because I desperately want to see this basketball program back to mattering, to being a program of significance. Not that I think that they're going to be able to compete with a $20 million plus a year roster like Kentucky has or that Duke has. They're not going to be able to do that. But I do think they're going to be a team that has an opportunity to continue to ride a wave of momentum, continued belief that they are going to get more contributions from the money folk as he continues to figure out other ways to raise that support and bring in elite players. If you can strike the match, and this year may have done a little bit of that. It certainly didn't discourage people from believing more in Luke Laux and his staff. It certainly didn't discourage you or I or anybody paying attention to this team from believing that they can be appreciably better next year with a chance to kind of take off and become a tournament team annually. And once you have that momentum, then some other things are possible. So they're in a good spot right now. And I think more importantly, big name recruits really believe in him and his staff. So this was a rousing success. Could have been disastrous. They were 0-5 in the ACC at one point on the wrong end of some devastating ass beatings, and then it all turned around. And I don't mean specifically in the ACC. I just mean losses that A&M lost and some of the other uglier losses. But, man, if you had shown me that glimpse of what Florida State basketball was, if you put somebody in a room and said, this is what it's going to look like, we're going to stop at the end of the first 5 games in the ACC, plus all of the other games that you've seen. How do you think this ends? There's no way you pick that it ends this way. There's no way you say, oh, well, they're going to get really hot and just go win a bunch of road games and really narrowly lose a couple of home games that they should have won. Otherwise, they'd be a tournament team. Like, this is how it's going to turn around. It's crazy.
It is, and it really was that close to being a disaster, it's just wild. Because if it does turn out a couple of years from now that the program is humming, you'll look back again at 0-5 and go, holy crap, it was so close to just crashing completely. And what was so difficult about this job was you had to understand the deficiencies before you took it. If not, you're lying to yourself and you're a failure before you walk through the door. You have to understand what the program is and is not. It was a very, very narrow window of candidates that could handle this specific gig without bringing a lot of money with them through the door. Like if maybe they had a friend who's a billionaire who's like, I'll support you in anything you do. All right, there's a pathway for that hire. But any other hire would be, I mean, it's just such a small window, and Luke understood it all, which is why I thought when he was hired, man, he knows what we aren't. That's more important than knowing what we are. Like, he knows what he has to work around. And he said all the right things, and he laid the right groundwork. And then when it was 0-5, I thought, holy God. He had everything behind the scenes correct and in line, and he's not going to get a chance to pay it off. It's going to fail before it ever got off the ground. Thank God it didn't, because now you can legitimately, we get into the bye week in October next year, you're going to start looking forward. When I'm talking the football bye, you're like, man, I can't wait to see what this basketball team's about now. And you're going to feel that in town.
It's exciting because it's possible. I mean, it's possible to be good at 2 sports. You can do it, and they're already good at baseball. So yeah, let's make this thing happen. Somebody really early in the show, I saw it when I first logged on. I think it was the recorded hour, but people were chatting, and somebody said something along the lines of, "How can our basketball coach and staff get off to such a disastrous start, go sit down one night in the room and have a few beers together and figure it out and reverse course and get this thing figured out, and our football program can't?" Well, I will say basketball is a little different. Far fewer players, and really only need to find a way to bring to the surface your 2 best players' best attributes and have them contribute to the maximum of those capabilities and play through it. Like once you figure out those pieces and you really whittle down the guys that are going to be playing important minutes for you and what you're going to hold on high and play through, then you can change, your fortunes. Football's a little bit different, man. If you don't have anybody at quarterback, good luck. And if you don't have a plus offensive and defensive line, you're not gonna beat significantly good football teams. You might get by for some other teams who are playing just as you are, but you're not gonna be a game changer. So that's a little bit different argument, but I understand the sentiment and I understand the frustration that people feel when they see something like that.
Well, the sentiment is how many games down the stretch last year for football were gettable if you just got out of your own way. And specifically on offense, you could point to Stanford and NC State as two prime examples. On defense, you can point back to the Pitt game. It's a little earlier in the year. But you can look at those games and say, hey, guys, if you just get out of your own way and stop trying to do this thing that you can't do, then you probably manage and win those football games. Mm-hmm. And you alertly skirt your weaknesses as much as possible. I think that would be the frustration, because even though football is different, and I hear you on that, the way those games played out, how many times did you have the football saying, could you just, for the love of God, kick a field goal this possession? Because if you do, it changes the game completely. But they couldn't even achieve, after the Alabama game where you light the world on fire, later in the season, they couldn't even achieve the most basic thing, and the defense was hanging in there and giving you every opportunity. I think that's where people feel it, that coaching could have helped put you over the top in moments like that.
This will be a worthwhile topic to explore and pay attention to. Now, we're at the end of the show right now, but he did say today, and you can take it for what it's worth, you might not care at all, he talked about how much he likes the character of this team, and he said these kinds of things before. But where I think it might be important is, they sell themselves down the river every time they face adversity in a given season. They just kind of throw in the towel and spiral. And teams that are together, that care, and that believe in the coach don't do that. Even teams that aren't having the kind of season they'd like to have. If you want a good example of it, 2 years ago, Florida was going through a disastrous season, but quite clearly believed in their coach. They fought every Saturday, and they would be thoroughly outmatched in games in a lot of ways, and they'd be coming down to the fourth quarter. Now, unfortunately for them, they'd lose those games in the fourth quarter, and we were happy about that. But they fought. They were always in it. To some degree, it was true last year with that Florida team. There's a difference between the kids that are bought in and believe in their coach, that are facing adversity but continue to fight because there's pride and there's trust and there's belief in one another and what the program is, and from the top down. Mike, one of the big problems that people have with Mike, rightfully so, is that your team doesn't believe you. Your team doesn't fight for you. And that, I want to see if that's different, because that's a big damn deal.
It's a huge deal, and that's the thing I would love to know the answer to. I know that Coach Laux will speak openly on topics like this. They were on the brink of, it looked like, quitting and shutting down on that coaching staff. This basketball team did.
Close.
He was calling out their effort. They didn't look like they cared very much. How did you click it back into place? I want to know, because whatever that secret sauce is worth a lot of money to a lot of coaches across this country in a lot of different sports.
Yeah, I think it's easier in year one. But also I think it has to be that you are incredibly blunt. Tommy, wave goodbye. I am done with you, and that is that. And to all of you, thanks. It was a weird kind of week, but we made it. We'll be back with you on Monday. I look forward to it. Enjoy your weekend. Go Noles, and we'll talk soon. Until then, peace.